Hey guys, welcome to At the Table. Sydney here, and it is National Nutrition Month. So March, every year is National Nutrition Month where we can talk about all things nutrition. Today, I'm going to focus on the American Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics, which is eatright.org. If you're ever looking for some great resources from dietitians, they have really awesome resources at eatright.org. But their theme this year is called Beyond the Table. So we're going to talk more about what that theme means and just explore more about National Nutrition Month. We'll also touch a little bit about our Ag Day coming up. So we'll get into all of that in just a minute. The recipes that we have today are all from eatright.org. So they have tons of different recipes, breakfast, sides and snacks. They have entrees, desserts, all kinds of stuff, even baby food recipes. So this is a veggie loaded sloppy joe recipe that we're going to start with. And then we're also going to be making carrot fries and a yummy bean salad too a little bit later. So we'll go ahead and get started just because there's a lot of chopping here. So I'll talk kind of while we're chopping. For this recipe, we have pretty simple ingredients. We have our green bell pepper, a red bell pepper, and an onion, and then a lean ground beef. So I have here 93.7 ground beef, which of course is one of the leanest options. I think you can sometimes find up to 98% lean, but I didn't even see that today. And 93, anything I would say 90 and above is gonna be fairly lean and be a good option. Of course, from when we talked all about the American Heart Month last month with the American Heart Association, we know that consuming leaner meats is better for us because our fattier meats are going to affect our heart health. So we want to make sure that we are choosing lean as often as possible. Even if you do, I did beef today, even if you do a turkey, ground turkey, that can sometimes be more like an 85% lean. So, we're getting even better than that turkey in some instances. So just make sure you're reading those labels whenever you're purchasing. So I just cut up, I had half an onion here. We just want a small onion. So I already had a little bit of onion from something else that I did, and I just used the other half because it was a big one. So what I'm gonna go ahead and throw both of these into the pan, and then I'll work on our bell pepper. So when we're talking about beyond the plate, really that is focusing on more than just eating. So it's beyond what we're eating every day. So we're also considering the environment, we're considering where our food comes from, learning more about where foods grow, how they're produced, all the work that goes into growing food. That is something I never realized until I moved to Sampson County and we started working with more farmers. So absolutely, this is a great message, I think a great topic this year from the American the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics. So we'll kind of explore that in just a little bit as well. Go ahead and get our pepper chopped up here. So for peppers, if you guys haven't seen me do one of these in a little while, we always top it and tail it, which means we cut off the top and we cut off the bottom, so you pretty much can see right through that middle. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna cut out our membrane. So what I like to do is just go through and cut out each side in parts. And that way our seed is all intact all together so that it's not going to get all over the place. Kind of keeps it from getting everywhere. And then we just do our rocking motion to chop that up into smaller pieces. So when we're thinking about beyond the plate, some of the topics we want to think about is a healthy eating routine. So focusing on a better routine of what we're going to be consuming every single day. So this could be kind of our food choices, that can, of course, be very difficult when we're trying to make healthy choices sometimes is, what should I eat? And, well, I'm going to be eating on the go, or I still want to go out to eat and go to a restaurant, which all of those things are great, and we should be able to do that. But when we are making those choices, trying to make healthier choices is going to be best. So when we're going out to eat, keeping an eye on things that are grilled versus fried. Maybe if you're getting bread, having that come with the meal instead of before the meal. That way we're less likely to overeat on just the bread and we don't eat much dinner. So little choices like that can make a big impact on our health overall. This looks good. And with these bell peppers, you do want smaller bell peppers, so don't choose like really gigantic ones. The smaller, kind of the better here. All right, so I'm gonna finish chopping this up. I'll throw this in my pan with my meat, and then we will see you guys back in just 1 second. Hey guys, Sydney here, and we are at the Sampson County Extension Office, and today we are going to talk all about Ag Day. Eileen, tell us a little bit about Ag Day.
Sydney, Ag Day is an event where we all come together to celebrate our #1 industry in Sampson County, agriculture. So on March 23rd, Saturday, March 23rd, at the Agri Expo Center from 10 to 4, we're going to be there all about agriculture. Lots of fun. You're really going to want to be there with us.
Free admission, we've got food trucks, live music, vendors, all the things. So come out and join us at the Expo Center Saturday, March 23rd. We hope to see you there. Hey guys, welcome back. Sydney here, and we are going to continue on with our recipes from eatright.org. Our beef and onions and peppers are cooking up nicely over there. They'll be ready in just a couple minutes. But what we're going to go ahead and work on next is our carrot fries recipe. This is another one that's from that website, and it's real simple. It's just carrots, salt and pepper, and a little bit of cooking spray. So very easy, and it's just a different way to be able to serve carrots for your family. Kind of like roasted carrots, but because we're cutting them into more fry-like shapes, they are called carrot fries. So what we're gonna do, we have a pound of carrots here, and what I'm doing is just kind of cutting off the ends of those carrots, any parts that kind of look kind of yucky. And if they're real long, I'll cut them in half. And then I like to cut them in half again and then start forming my little fries. So you want them to be about 1/4 inch thick. You might have a couple that are a little bit thinner than that or thicker. Just be mindful that they're gonna cook faster if they're thinner, or they're gonna take longer if they're thicker. So do the best you can with kind of holding that and then cutting. I kind of try to put my thumb behind it as I'm cutting, but you need to be very careful doing that because you don't want it to fall off the carrot and hit your thumb. So I would suggest, just from my experience with kids and how they react, anytime you call something a fry or a chip, they get that specific thing in their mind. So sweet potato fries, a lot of kids don't like sweet potato fries because they're called sweet potato fries and they're expecting French fries, like regular white potato French fries. So if you call them something else, maybe even with your kids, you just say, we're gonna have some carrots tonight, roasted carrots, baked carrots. That can kind of change their mindset around the food and what the food is going to be like, because especially for our really younger kids, I would say, kindergarten, first grade, they do struggle with kind of separating that fries can just be a shape and not necessarily what it's made of. So just a little tip for you from when I've been in the schools serving this type of stuff. So continuing with our conversation about Beyond the Table, we've talked a little bit about kind of where we're consuming food. So just beyond where we're normally sitting at the table eating foods, thinking about when we're at school, when we're on the go, when we take trips, maybe even the snacks that you're eating throughout the day. All of those things are important, and we want to be mindful that we're making healthy choices in all of those areas as well. The other aspect that we're going to talk about is that environmental piece. So the theme this year did want to focus also on the environment and then the food safety components as well, which we do a lot of that here at the Extension office. But when we're thinking about the environment, we want to think about the amount of work that can go into producing the foods that we eat every day. It's a lot, as I mentioned earlier, for farmers to grow food, to keep up with all the certifications that they have to do. That food safety aspect is thinking about where our food's growing, how it's regulated, all of those things that are very important. And the best way to know more about that is simply talking with farmers. And a great place to do that is our Ag Day event that is coming up March 23rd. So that is a Saturday. It's free to the public. There's going to be tons of vendors. We're going to have all kinds of folks from people that are in the ag industry to actual farmers to people just growing. Our master gardeners are going to be there to talk a little bit about, growing foods yourself at home. So all of those things are so important for us to consider and be able to have those conversations, and this event is a great place to do that. So I hope that you guys will come. I will be there. All of our staff will be there, and we are in charge of actually putting on this event. So we've put a lot of work into it to help connect agriculture to the community and just really be able to teach people another way for us to educate. All right, so I just did our carrots in our pan with a little bit of salt and pepper. Our recipe doesn't say to do this, but I am just gonna, a little bit of oil on top just so it'll bake up nicely. And I'll throw these in the oven. And those will just cook for 15 minutes, so not super long. All right, what we have next is our sauce for our Sloppy Joes. And for this, we do have a good bit of ketchup, about 3/4 of a cup of ketchup. But that's for the entire pan, so not much in the grand scheme of things. And we're gonna add just a little bit of mustard, a few tablespoons of mustard here. And then last thing is a little bit of vinegar. All right, I'm gonna stir that up. I didn't bring my spoon over here, so I'll just use my tablespoon measurer. And just mix it up kind of nicely. And then we're gonna go pour this on our pan, in our pan. And like I said, we're gonna let this simmer for about 15 minutes. So I'm gonna turn my pan down and just let it kind of simmer together so that all those flavors will meld together and taste really good. So I'll finish doing this and we will see you guys back in just a minute to finish up our next recipe. Hey guys, welcome back. So our third recipe we are gonna do is a Tuscan bean salad with arugula. So we have some cannellini beans that are kind of the base. This is gonna be our bean base. then we've got lots of different vegetables here that we're going to be throwing in to our recipe. And then we have a little bit of like our own little dressing. So we'll go ahead and get started cutting. I have some smaller tomatoes. When you buy the tomatoes that are off the vine, they're cheaper at the grocery store. So that is another part of Beyond the Table when we're talking about when we're purchasing things, looking to see what's on sale, looking to see maybe what will be most affordable to you. Of course, we're getting into warmer weather, so pretty soon we'll have a lot of fresh tomatoes. You might even know somebody that's growing tomatoes, or maybe you try growing tomatoes yourself at home. So any of those are great options. Key here is that we're finding ways to use this fresh produce, and also that we're trying to eliminate some of that food waste. So let's say you have a recipe and you're not using the entire tomato. Maybe you add a little bit extra tomato to it, or saving a few slices to add to sandwiches, things like that. Remember, when you are cutting, in terms of food safety and storage safety, which is all still part of the theme for this year's National Nutrition Month, that anything that once you've cut into it, it becomes a food that needs to be refrigerated. We need to treat it in a way that we're gonna be putting it in the refrigerator pretty quickly. We're not just leaving it on the counter for a long time. I have seen some people who will take a tomato, they'll cut it in half, and then they'll kind of wrap it up and leave it on the counter. The tomato has a protective layer on the outside that prevents it from spoilage and all that bacteria that can grow. Once you've cut into it, you're exposing that tomato to the environment. So it is more likely to grow bacteria, grow mold, all of that. So we want to be careful when we're taking a food, or same thing as an onion. Foods, maybe produce that sits out, that is acceptable to sit out prior to cutting into it. If you cut into it, it needs to be put in the refrigerator, always. There's no exceptions. So just little food safety tips for you. I'm just cutting this up into small pieces, kind of bite-sized pieces. It's all gonna be tossed together. And like I said, it was 2 tomatoes. I had 3 of these smaller tomatoes that were off the vine. You might notice the other thing I have here is the top. So when I cut off the top, I don't waste that. So this is part of food waste. This is plenty of good tomato all around here that we can still use. So I just kind of cut it around it in a little square, and I set that to the side, and that will be the amount that I throw away. There's all this tomato that is getting wasted if I were to just throw away that entire top piece. So try to do your best to use as much of the fruit or vegetable as you can before just tossing, any excess. Of course, the exception would be if it looks really bad on the top, you've got some bad spots on it. We don't want to get sick, of course, but if everything looks good and it's in great condition, go for it in terms of cutting it up and using it. All right, so I did, while we were on break, go ahead and flip our carrots. I wanted to mention that. Our carrots, we want to flip them at about 15 minutes, and then you're going to put them back in for 15 minutes. This also just gives you a chance to see how they're cooking up. They smelled really good and actually looked really good, so they are coming along nicely. We got one more tomato here. So the great thing about this recipe and a lot of the recipes that are on eatright.org is there's lots of resources for recipes that include lots of fruits and vegetables. And so if you ever do have something where you're like, gosh, I've got this leftover onion or leftover bell pepper, I want to make something with this bell pepper. You can look up and see if there are recipes that include, those specific vegetables. The other thing that you can do, and a great way to reduce food waste, is simply just adding those vegetables to recipes maybe you don't normally add them to. For instance, if I were making this Sloppy Joe recipe and I had some carrots left over, chop them up really fine. I could add those into the Sloppy Joe recipe. You could add mushrooms to it. Celery would be fine. I would just make sure I chop those things up. But in general, most recipes you can kind of beef up the vegetables in that recipe and utilize those so that you're not going to be throwing it away. Another tip is if you have leftovers and you're just tired of that specific recipe that you made, find another way that you can eat it. So these Sloppy Joes, maybe I'm tired of making sandwiches. I could easily throw that on top of a salad, put it over rice, add some different seasonings to it to give it a different flavor. And that is all a great way to utilize any of your leftovers. So I'm going to finish chopping this up. I'm actually going to go ahead and chop up our onion because it's going to make me cry. You don't want to see me cry. So I'll do that, and then we will come back to finish up our recipe.
Providing fewer commutes, more backyard offices, and crystal clear meetings. Providing less, you froze up, and more presence in your presentations. Providing a better internet experience. Providing possible.
Hey guys, welcome back. Our carrots are done. I have pulled those out. They look really yummy. Some of them, the really skinny ones, got a little bit more cooked than the others, but that's okay. I like a little bit more of that crispy char. I'll actually pull it over here just so you guys can see a little bit better. But so you can see a little bit of the brown that has happened. I enjoy my carrots this way. So maybe if your family doesn't like them quite this cooked, do a little bit less than that full 30 minutes. Again, it all depends on how your oven works, how thin you do cut these. So that can absolutely make an impact on how your carrots turn out. So just kind of keeping an eye on them at about the 20-minute mark, which you're going to pull them out at 15 anyways. So I did go ahead and cut up our bell pepper, our red onion, and I've done 1 clove of garlic. We're going to throw in the second clove. And if you've never used fresh garlic, I've told you guys before, it's a game changer. It makes your food taste so different than using garlic powder or garlic salt. So to do that, I usually just use my knife, or I'll use the hard part of my hand. And then I like to cut off the little end, which is where the stem is. To me, that piece can be kind of hard, and it's just as off-putting whenever you are chewing. So I just go ahead and cut that piece off, and I'm just going to chop it up. There's all different kinds of gadgets you can use for chopping up garlic. For me, it just depends on what I've got. I'm cutting other stuff up, I will usually just go ahead and use my knife. But if I'm not, I've got little gadgets from all over the place. There's garlic presses. I have some that are more of a twisty garlic thing. I get those a lot as gifts because people know I love garlic. So I have them at my house that I use quite frequently to chop up my garlic, but a knife works great as well. So here we have our arugula. We need about a cup of this. So it's already pretty finely cut up. This is baby arugula, so it's a little bit smaller than maybe some of the larger varieties you might find. But that's about a cup. We're gonna just throw that in there. And then we have our parsley. So this is fresh parsley, and it is the Italian leaf, so sometimes you'll find the kind that's really curly at the grocery store. We want about 1/4 cup. I did rinse this. It's best if you rinse it because there is kind of dirt and grime that can be on these as well. And that is part of our food safety aspect as well, that we're washing our vegetables, our produce in general properly, and that can help keep us safe if there is anything that is on the fruit or vegetable. We don't have to do anything special with washing it. Simply just water is great. You don't need to buy any fancy solutions or soak it in vinegar, anything like that. And we need about 1/4 cup. I feel like that's probably about I'm gonna do a little bit more. Because I like fresh herbs also change the flavor of your food drastically. So if you're really struggling with maybe bland foods, boring foods at home, just adding a little bit of fresh herbs to it can make a big difference. And if you're new to gardening, doing fresh herbs in a container is a great way to start. If I don't do anything else, which I've got a baby coming, I had a baby about 1.5 years ago, and you know, that's just not been a focus of mine lately because we've been so busy with babies. So I have still continued to do those herb gardens because it's a great way to get those fresh herbs, and it's not a lot of maintenance compared to sometimes a vegetable garden can be. So move this here. We'll get this out of the way. And we're just gonna stir this up a little bit. And then the last thing is to add in our dressing. One thing I wanted to mention, I think I said that this recipe had 1/2 of an onion earlier. It's actually 1/2 cup of red onion. So another tip for you is if you are cutting up onion, go ahead and cut up the whole thing. Whenever I do that, I'll just put it in a little container, throw it in my fridge. You could also put this in a freezer bag and throw it in the freezer. And you can cook onions straight from the freezer. They cook up pretty quickly. So I love to buy frozen onions or to store my onions frozen, just because it does help. Oh, yes, I needed 1 tablespoon of this. We've got 1/3 cup of olive oil. And then I need 2 tablespoons, that's red wine vinegar. I said this, I didn't say what it was. And then 2 tablespoons of balsamic vinegar. And then just a little bit of your lemon pepper seasoning and your salt and pepper. We'll throw all of that in. This is 1/4 teaspoon. You don't have to add the lemon pepper if you don't want to, especially if you don't like it. Thought it would be good. That lemon flavor will taste really nicely in this dish. All right, so just pour this on. And then we're just gonna stir it up. So we've got our Sloppy Joe all done. You can see that over there. This whole meal is loaded with vegetables. It's a great one that you could make this ahead of time. Sloppy Joes are even better to me the next day because they've had time to sit and marinate. And this recipe is another one that would taste even better the next day, just because the vinegars will start infusing, those seasonings, all of that will start infusing into all of your ingredients here. So I hope that you make this. I hope that you have enjoyed this session today, all about getting beyond the table. And I hope that I will see you guys at Ag Day on March 23rd. We'll see you guys next time on At the Table.